The first US deliveries of Audi's more affordable all-electric SUV, the 2022 Q4 E-TRON, should be happening soon. With a starting price of just under $44,000 US, even before the $7,500 federal tax credit, this SUV has a lot to like. But just how does it compare to the extremely popular Tesla Model Y? And is the Model Y worth the extra cost? Before I dive into the side-by-side comparisons and talk about different features of the vehicles, I wanted to mention that do note that I am talking about the US spec version of the Audi Q4 E-TRON. The European version is slightly different. There are some different trims offered, and the specifications are slightly different as well. Also note that the Audi Q4 E-TRON is offered in either a standard or sportback model. However, I will primarily be focused in on the regular SUV model. However, despite the stylistic change, it doesn't appear like there's a significant difference in specs between the two vehicles. First of all, before I dive into some of the non-subjective comparisons between these two electric SUVs, I want to talk about the interior and exterior styling and how these vehicles differ. The Model Y has an extremely modern and clean interior that is often referred to as Spartan. The tech-forward interior of the Model Y doesn't have very many physical buttons, and the majority of the SUV's functions can be controlled through the large, central 15-inch touchscreen. Now, some people may argue with its clean, modern interior that the Model Y should not be considered a luxury electric vehicle. However, it does come equipped with most of the premium interior features that you would expect on a car over the $50,000 price point, like heated seats, heated steering wheel, auto-dimming mirrors, a highly advanced ADAS system, adaptive cruise control, acoustic glass for a quieter cabin, a premium sound system, power adjustable seats, built-in navigation, and so on. In addition, the Model Y has some Tesla software exclusives like Tesla Theater, Tesla Arcade, Sentry Mode, Dog Mode, Dashcam Recorder, and so on. So while the Model Y may not have the same premium interior feel of, say, a luxury German SUV, it does, however, still have a very nice, comfortable interior, including potentially the most comfortable front seats found in any vehicle. And in my personal opinion, the Model Y does belong in the luxury category, if nothing else because of all the premium features and technology built into the SUV. When it comes to the Audi Q4 e-tron's interior, it's definitely well designed and well equipped, and is definitely not Spartan like the Model Y. The Q4 e-tron interior has a number of physical buttons throughout, which some people may prefer, including physical buttons, for instance, to adjust the climate control system, etc. Also, unlike the Model Y, which has a single 15-inch touchscreen, the Q4 includes two touchscreens, a digital instrument cluster directly in front of the driver, and a central infotainment touchscreen. While the included features vary based on trim level and added packages, the Q4 e-tron can be equipped with a very similar set of premium features as the Model Y, like I previously mentioned. But there are a few things that the Audi Q4 e-tron has available that the Model Y does not have. For instance, like an optional augmented reality heads-up display and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The infotainment system in the Q4 appears easy to use and includes all the expected functions in a modern luxury vehicle. And if you're an existing Audi owner, you'll notice that the software is very similar to Audi's other vehicles as well. Overall, when it comes to software and infotainment systems, Tesla definitely has an edge, but I do understand some people may prefer the simplicity of the Q4 infotainment system. When it comes to which interior is better, it really comes down to a matter of preference. If you're looking for an SUV with the best technology and the best software, then the Model Y wins in that category. However, if you prefer a more traditional interior design and you like physical buttons and appreciate the more premium interior feel that the Q4 is sure to deliver, then the Audi Q4 is going to be a great option for you. When it comes to exterior style, both SUVs are very attractive, and while I do really like the exterior styling of the Audi Q4, I personally prefer the cleaner, grille-less look of the Model Y. However, I do understand that physical appearance is definitely a matter of personal preference, and I also understand that plenty of buyers will prefer the Q4 appearance over the Model Y. In the USA, the Q4 E-TRON is offered at a premium trim level, premium plus trim level, and the highest prestige trim level. The premium and premium plus trim levels can be purchased with either a rear-wheel drive or a quattro all-wheel drive system, whereas the prestige top trim level is only available in the quattro all-wheel drive version. The lowest priced Q4 E-TRON rear-wheel drive has a starting price under $44,000, and the highest model has a starting price over $56,000. When it comes to the Tesla Model Y, the long-range version is available for just under $54,000, and the performance version is available for just under $61,000. When you look at a purchase price comparison of the lowest trim level Audi Q4 E-TRON and the Tesla Model Y, when you add in applicable delivery fees to the Model Y and the Q4 E-TRON, and include the $1,800 convenience package in the Q4 E-TRON, which includes features that most people will prefer, that gives us a purchase price comparison of $46,000+ for the Q4 E-TRON and just over $55,000 for the Model Y. However, the Audi Q4 E-TRON is still eligible for the $7,500 US federal tax credit for electric vehicles. So if you subtract that from the price, the starting price of the Q4 E-TRON drops below $40,000. Although this is not an apples to apples comparison, and I'll do a better comparison in a minute with a similarly equipped vehicle, there's almost a $16,000 difference in the comparison I just did with these lowest available trim levels. So the Audi Q4 E-TRON clearly offers a really good, affordable electric SUV to the masses. Now, while it is good to look at the lowest trim levels of these two vehicles, we really need to spec up the Audi Q4 E-TRON to a more comparable version to the long-range all-wheel drive Model Y and see then how it compares in price. To do a more apples-to-apples comparison, we need to move up to the Premium Plus trim level and choose the Quattro all-wheel drive version. This allows the Audi Q4 to have the auto-dimming rear view and side view mirrors, adaptive cruise control, the proximity key fob, which they call advanced key, and the acoustic front door windows. I've also added the $2,200 technology package, which gives you the better sound system, improved navigation, improved virtual cockpit, Audi Connect, and also traffic sign recognition. With the delivery fee and that added package, you can see that the price actually comes to about the same between the Q4 and the Model Y. However, once again, when you subtract the US federal tax credit, the Q4 does offer a lower price than the Model Y with a similarly equipped vehicle. Now moving over to another really important category for electric vehicles, and that is range. The rear-wheel drive version of the Q4 E-TRON has not yet been rated by the EPA. However, they have rated the all-wheel drive version to have a range of around 241 miles, which is quite a bit less than the EPA rating for the Model Y long-range all-wheel drive version. While they have not rated the rear-wheel drive version of the Q4, based on the fact that the Q4 E-TRON is based on the same platform as the VW ID.4, I estimate that the rear-wheel drive versions of the vehicle will have an EPA estimated range somewhere around 260 miles when that number is published. However, it's important that we go beyond just the EPA rating. We also talk about the WLTP test cycle, and then also some real-world test results that others have found testing these two vehicles. When it comes to the WLTP test cycle, which is a standard used in Europe, on the high end, the Q4 E-TRON will have a range just over 300 miles, and on the low end, it'll have a range of around 256 miles. As you can see, when you look at the WLTP comparisons between the Q4 E-TRON and the Model Y's WLTP range estimates, you can see that those numbers are closer than the EPA range estimates. When it comes to real-world testing, I pulled up a couple Bjorn Nyland YouTube videos, and in one video, he tested the Q4 E-TRON rear-wheel drive and found that at 90 kilometers per hour or 55 miles per hour, he was able to achieve around 302 miles of range, and at 120 kilometers per hour or 75 miles per hour, he was able to achieve around 206 miles of range. When you compare this to the long-range all-wheel drive Model Y, you can see that these numbers were actually pretty close. However, do note once again, that's not really an apples-to-apples comparison because you're comparing a rear-wheel drive vehicle to an all-wheel drive Model Y. But I also pulled up a Joe Achilles YouTube video where he did a real-world range test of the Q4 E-TRON with all-wheel drive, and he was able to achieve around 260 miles on a single charge, thus beating the EPA range estimate. So when it comes to what this all means, basically, although the EPA rating between the two vehicles is quite different, the Model Y has a much higher EPA rating than the Q4 E-TRON. When it comes to real-world testing, the difference will not be quite as huge as the EPA rating may make it seem. The Audi Q4 E-TRON will still be a very good electric vehicle and should provide enough range for most people. When it comes to the dimension comparisons between these vehicles, the Model Y is longer, wider, and has a longer wheelbase than the Q4. However, the Q4 is slightly taller than the Model Y, and the vehicles have very similar ground clearance. Also, likely due to a smaller battery pack being found in the Model Y, it weighs around 445 pounds less than the Audi Q4. When it comes to the interior measurement differences, which tells you how much room there is for your passengers, the Model Y offers more headroom in the front and rear, and also more legroom in the front and rear. However, when it comes to shoulder room in the front and rear, the Q4 E-TRON offers slightly more room. When it comes to the cargo room in each of these vehicles, the Q4 does not have a front trunk, whereas the Model Y has a 4.1 cubic foot front trunk. You can see the comparisons there for the cargo room behind the second row, and also the totals for the front trunk plus the back trunk area. But more importantly, when you fold the back seats down, you can see that both in the 5-seat configuration and the 7-seat configuration, the Model Y has substantially more cargo room. It's also important to note that for an extra $3,000, you can add a third row of seats to the Model Y, which allows it to seat 7 passengers. And although these rear seats may not have a ton of room, they are still very useful. When it comes to towing between the two vehicles, in the US, the Audi Q4 E-TRON is rated to tow around 2,600 pounds, whereas the Model Y is rated to tow around 3,500 pounds. When it comes to performance, you can see that both in top speed and the time it takes to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour, the Model Y beats the Q4 easily. There's also another really important comparison we need to make, and that's the charging speed difference between these two electric SUVs. According to evdatabase.org, it should take about 34 minutes for the Q4 E-TRON to go from a 10% state of charge to an 80% state of charge. The Model Y long-range all-wheel drive version can do that same charge in around 29 minutes, about 5 minutes less than the Q4. However, beyond just that 5-minute difference, when you look at the EPA rating and you look at how many miles were actually added during that 10% to 80% charge, you can see that Model Y is not only able to go from 10% to 80% faster, but it also adds substantially more drivable miles in that period, which equates to substantially more miles being added per minute of charging. Also add to that Tesla has an exclusive supercharging network, which Tesla apparently will open to other EVs in the future, but as of this recording, Tesla has not yet officially done that. So right now, this is still an advantage for Tesla electric vehicles. Now, before I wrap this video up and dive into a summary of what we've talked about, I want to briefly talk about the crash safety ratings between these two electric vehicles. Recently, the Tesla Model Y was rated by the NHTSA, and it achieved a 5-star crash test rating in all categories. And while the NHTSA has not yet rated the Q4 E-TRON, the Euro NCAP has tested the Q4 E-TRON, and it also achieved a 5-star rating according to their tests. So although we don't have an apples-to-apples comparison here because the Euro NCAP tests are slightly different than the NHTSA tests, for instance, it does appear like either vehicle is going to be extremely safe, and I don't believe there's going to be a huge difference between these two electric vehicles when it comes to safety. Tesla might have a slight edge on the ADAS system because they are developing it into what is going to eventually be a full self-driving system. So I believe they're spending more time on that side of it. However, when it comes to the actual crash safety, of the Audi Q4 e-tron, I believe it's going to be a very safe SUV, as the Euro NCAP has shown us. So let me know what you think. Which electric SUV would you rather own? And do you like the new Audi Q4 e-tron? I know I like it. I think it's a great looking electric SUV, and I'm definitely glad to have another great electric vehicle on the market. Well, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. I'd like to take a moment to thank the Patreon supporters who support me every month and help make this content possible. A special thank you to my performance supporters and also the other supporters listed on the screen. If you'd like to find out more about the Patreon community I've set up, I'll put a link in the description below. Thank you so much.